Alright, so hey everyone. Today I want to take a look at the dead zones for the Sandland demo, as well as
Foe's
offer
too
some
tough.
requests
You can
for
always run away
improvements.
and live to fight another day.
So, to start,
No such
for
thing as
movement,
too tough
we
for
have
me.
about a
Perhaps not, but I'm telling
40%
you just in case
square
that
dead zone.
turns out not to be true.
All right, fine.
And you can see in in these corners that there's a radial dotted line. So to start moving, you have to break out of the square, but to stop, you have to move under this radial region. So you can see that I'm within the dead zone and then stopped in between the
I've heard
regions
rumors of creatures of
and stop.
tremendous power in this land. You never know when you might run across one of them.
About 25%
Oh,
around
yeah.
each
I
axis
think I heard
is
Father say
restricted.
that before.
So if your stick is anywhere
That's you
within these blue
demons, isn't
regions,
it?
you'll be moving,
Well,
in this case,
I suppose
perfectly
there's always someone stronger.
forward,
Well, no matter how tough
perfectly
they are, there's
backward,
no way they can be stronger than the King of Demons.
perfectly to the left, and perfectly to the right. It isn't until you break into these green regions where you start seeing diagonal movement occur. And this is most obvious right around the dead zone just because that's where it's most restricted. You can see this gap of no diagonal movement occurring right there. It might be a little difficult to see, but you can, when changing directions, the character kind of
As things stand now, yes,
has a bit
probably
stuttery
true.
changes in their angle,
Somehow, I don't like the way you phrase it.
and the character animations may mask this a bit, but this is very obvious in vehicles. So if we bring out the tank, you can see that when changing your angle, it moves in pretty obvious steps.
Hey, Steve. Did the demon village always used to be where it is
Well, what's interesting is this seems to only apply when the
No record of
camera is stationary.
Staying in one spot
When
for
there's
so
some
long
movement,
is a sign of
it
good
seems
governance.
to transition smoothly. So here I am rotating the camera very slightly and now moving very smoothly between the diagonals for the tank. You can see that this transition is very smooth. And if I center it and again make circles, you can see that it's jittery again. So that's kind of a unique issue.
tremendous power in this land. You never know when you might run across one of them.
Oh, yeah.
The
think I
shaded
heard
region,
Father say that before.
basically the entirety of the
That's
active
you
stick,
demons, isn't it? Well, I
represents
suppose there's
the
always
sprint
someone
threshold.
stronger.
So if you move
Well, no matter
just past
how
the dead
tough
zone,
they
you're
are,
allowed to
there's
sprint.
no way they
And if
can
you
be
move
stronger than the King of Demons.
Fully, you can sprint. And just with stick movement, you have to move back within the dead zone to stop. Otherwise, you just have to press the stick. This isn't quite accurate. When I was trying to test the threshold for this, I would get irregular values between about 41% and 44%-ish. And I couldn't find a consistent threshold or reason why those values differ, so I just shaded the whole thing. But there could be a small ring around the dead zone where you're unable to sprint. Because you can see right now I can't sprint, just moving very slightly. Let me
And
see if I can.
then run away.
I'm trying to sprint right now,
Running in a blind panic is the
right
more
now,
chances
and
to
sprint,
hit you in the
and
back.
then you can see
Assess
that
the
I
situation
don't stop
calmly
sprinting until
instead.
I go back within the dead zone.
I prefer running.
So I shaded the full thing, though that's a little inaccurate because there is an irregular threshold for when it can trigger. But for the camera, we have a 25% axial dead zone. And we have the same level of restriction. So I'm bobbing the stick up and down, but moving perfectly left,
Bow's too tough. You can always run away
perfectly
and live
right,
to fight another day.
and you don't start seeing diagonal
No
movement
such thing
until
as
you
too
pass
tough
in
for
these
me.
green regions.
Perhaps not, but I'm telling you just in case that turns
That's
out
pretty
not
clear,
to be
but
true.
it's most clear when looking straight up or down
Alright, fine.
and looking for horizontal movement. The map cursor has the exact same dead zone as the camera. So a 25% axial dead zone. And we can look at the restrictions just by capping this here too and looking for horizontal movement. And then cap it here, looking for vertical movement. Alright, so the acceleration curve for this is linear. So it's scaled to the dead zone and increases linearly until its maximum turn rate. The sensitivity, I'm playing at the maximum sensitivity right now, and the horizontal and vertical sensitivities are the same. At their maximum, you turn it at about 372 degrees per second.
Hey, thief. Did the demon village
The default is 50, and at 50 you turn at about 100 degrees per second, and at the minimum, 1 sense, you turn at about 17 degrees per second. Take these values with a grain of salt. There's some error in these tests, but this slider doesn't increase linearly, so it gets a little faster the higher it goes, at faster than expected rate. So to show that on screen, there's a lot of differences between the different vehicles and sensitivities for them.
used to be
To generalize that,
where it is now?
for the tank,
As far as I know, there is no record of us moving.
Staying in one
the
spot for
sensitivity
so long
is about
sign of good
80% of the
Humans
player
should try
camera,
moving less.
and when zooming, it's close to about 25% of this general tank sensitivity. For the bike, this is faster than the player camera, and this is about 12% faster, and when zooming, this is about 50% of the bike general camera. And for the heavy armor, this is about 90% of the player camera, and zooming doesn't make a difference. It's the exact same as the
I traveled
general
around to all
armor
sorts
camera.
of places in my youth, but there's still so much to see.
This trip should be fun for you then.
So that about covers the controls in this game. As far as the improvements, I think for the dead zones, it'd be better if these were perfectly circular with full diagonal movement. That would just make it so that you could exit the dead zone at the same point at every angle of the stick movement, and that you'd have full diagonal movement so that every stick position is accurately reflected with character movement. This would also help
It looks like
being
we're not
applied to the
only
camera,
travelers out
because
here.
there is some aiming in this game,
About
and
stopping
while
by that
aiming
campsite
is fine
we're
just
using
with this
ourselves.
axial dead zone,
It's
it
a
would definitely
communal
smooth
camp
things
that's
out,
open to
so
all travelers.
that would definitely
Talk about
benefit from that.
convenient.
So to really demonstrate what that would look like, I'll counter these dead zones and show what that'll look like. To see how this is done, you can check out some other examples, but we'll look at this. So countering the game's dead zone, you can see that now I'm moving the stick right around the axes. The
Curious,
character
who's the second
switches
strongest demon in your village?
direction they're moving, so there's no gaps in
As things stand now, yes, that's probably true.
diagonal movement.
Somehow, I don't like the way you phrased that.
And I've made the dead zone a little smaller, so just to demonstrate this change. I've made the right stick much smaller at 5%, just to demonstrate the aiming difference between for the vehicles. But you can see that that starts much
Did the
sooner,
demon village always used to be where it is now?
As
and
far as I
getting the
know,
tank to demonstrate it
there
there.
is no record of us moving.
Staying in one spot for so long is a sign of good
You
governance.
can see that crosshair
Maybe you humans should try moving less.
movements are very smooth. And the other thing I was going to request is dead zone options, because smaller dead zones can make the controls feel more responsive, but specifically aiming make it much easier to make small movements, as you can see here. But at maximum sensitivity and with the linear curve, this may be too sensitive. So to demonstrate
remain
this,
calm, no matter
I'll
the situation.
use a slower curve.
Clear
So
thinking will lead you to victory, even when the odds are against you.
switch this from linear
You're talking to the fiend.
to
Chris.
quadratic,
I'm like the definition of calm.
and you can see that it's slowed down. So the same movements are much slower, and the benefit for doing this is just so that precise movements become even more easy. So the real major improvement is switching to radial dead zones, but getting dead zone options as well as acceleration
Keep
curve
our
options
distance from the army
would greatly
base unless
improve
necessary.
aiming specifically. Again, you don't need much precision for this
Can't argue
game.
with that.
The actual dead
Somehow, I
zones
doubt
are,
they'd take time to
perfectly
do
functional
improving.
for that. But this just would smooth things out dramatically.
Please, at least try
So
to
it would be
sneaky
good
about
to
it.
get those if that was possible. But just switching to radial dead zones is the main important move. We can also demonstrate the jitter here too. So if I center this, since there's no axial restriction, when countering a dead zone like this, it's all diagonal movement. You can see the jittering. Let's move to. Let's not move so fast either. Oops. So
What goes
without,
through your head in the middle of a fight?
How I'm gonna beat the
camera
other
movement,
guy to a
you
pulp.
can see that it
That's a start.
jitters
You might get
between
better results by predicting what your enemy
angle
is going
changes.
to do and reacting accordingly. You'll find it hard to lose if you're always fighting on favorable
but moving the
terms.
stick outside of the dead zone, and it's very slow because it's a quadratic curve right now. We can see that it's very smooth. So as a summary for the requests, the main ones are to switch to radial dead zones and to address this jittering issue.
Hey, Steve.
But additionally, adding options for the dead zone size for the camera and movement dead zones, as well as the camera acceleration curve,
Staying in one
would
spot
really
for
help
so
smooth
long
out
is a sign of good
camera
governance.
movement, which would help
Maybe
any aiming
humans
that you would
should
have to
try
do.
moving less.
So hopefully these things could be added. The game's coming out soon, so it might be too late to see anything on launch, but certainly somewhere down the line would be nice. So thanks for watching, and everyone, have a good rest of your day.